to Innsmouth, stranger.
Hi, I'm Rob Whiten from the Innsmouth Book Club. Join me and my fellow guide John Chadwick as we take you on a fortnightly tour of Innsmouth. We visit places such as the Picture House, the Library and Innsmouth Museum to discuss all aspects of weird fiction, whether it be book, film, music, TV or art. As well as that, we stop over at the Gilman House to have a chat with a resident guest. That includes authors, artists, musicians, in fact Lovecraftian creatives of all types. You can find our free shows on Patreon, and there you can also sign up as a patron, which brings you bonus content, plus a monthly PDF copy of Innsmouth News, which features articles, author spotlights, all the latest news and reviews, and more. You can find us at patreon.com/InnsmouthBC. We hope to see you soon, because remember, Innsmouth isn't just a place, it's a state of mind.
Hey everyone, it's me, DB. New sponsor on the show, Glary. Glary offers a great price and better quality goods and services for music lovers. Are you looking for good prices, free shipping, 100% quality guarantee? Glary's got you covered. Guitars, bass guitars, mandolins. They've got saxophones, trumpets, drums. They've got guitar cases, amplifiers, all the stuff that you need without having to break the bank. Inexpensive doesn't have to mean cheap. Check out the show notes to find more about Glary. 20-watt amplifiers for under $50. Hard cases for your electric guitar for under $80. Guitars themselves for under $90. Come on, folks, check out the show notes. Get a Glary. This episode is brought to you by California Tea House. California Tea House is a family-owned tea store where you can find some of the world's best loose-leaf tea and organic herbal tea blends. Like a fine wine, there is no comparison between fine loose-leaf and common broken-leaf tea bags. So, check them out. Check them out. They have quite a bit of pretty awesome tea collections. I'm a huge fan of their white teas. They have a tea club that you can join, but, they've got green tea, black tea, white tea, oolong, that Robios, and herbal tea. They've also got teaware. So check out California Tea House in the show notes. This episode is brought to you by Donner. Check out the show notes to find a good deal at Donner. Like the sound of this? This is the Donner Island Delay, and the really cool Donner LP that I've shown off on Instagram. Check it out. They've got some really good summer deals, and check out their snap deals as well. Use the link in the show notes to help support the show. Get yourself some cool musical instruments, maybe some patch cords. Cool. Hey everyone, it's me, DB. Just reminding you, we have t-shirts in the shop. Just go to pgttcm.com. Check out all of our cool t-shirts and stickers. Heck, we even got some shelf curtains in there. Keep clean, look cool, have cool stickers to put on stuff. Join us on Patreon, get a free sticker. Or don't. It's up to you.
You're listening to KZOM, Oleander Public Radio.
Greetings, listeners. It is I, DB Spitzer and Farmer Dave, here once again to talk to you about the Cthulhu mythos, its books, its monsters, its unfortunate human casualties, its timeline in general, and even its tangential bits, like the dreamlands or things of a weird nature that are Lovecraftian leaning. Once more we head into those dark woods, further feeling those malevolent forces upon us. Once again we walk down the lightless stone staircase in the middle of nowhere.
You're listening to KZOM.
Hey everyone, it is me, DB Spitzer, and to my virtual right, David Heath, Farmer Dave. How the heck are you doing this week?
I am doing well.
And the crowd goes crazy, especially everyone wearing their I Am Well t-shirts.
Yes.
Yeah, how's everything out on the farm this week?
So it is busy.
Yeah.
It is busy, but we've got a whole bunch of little goats running around. Some of them think that they know more than farmers, but it's settling down a little bit.
Cool. That's awesome. I myself am exhausted. Sarah and I dropped the kids off at their grandmother's the other day, and we went up to Portland, dropped the kids off, and went to trivia horror last night. Horror trivia last night. Yeah.
Did you get just munched by Team Buzzhead?
No. We destroyed horror trivia. We destroyed. We were Team Monster Vision, and it was Andrew Migliori's team that ended up beating us. I didn't know that he was there, or I would have ended up being on his team, and then we would have destroyed everyone for sure.
I'm sure you.
Yeah, and I won a raffle and got a copy of David Cronenberg's Double Vision, and answered all kinds of fun questions. And it's at a bar called Home. It's Home a Bar is the name of it. Anyway, really good drinks, really good food. And I highly recommend if anyone wants to ever make their way to Portland for trivia, the horror trivia, just look for it on Facebook, I think. And, oh man, it was so much fun. And this was not a paid spot by anyone. I just had a lot of fun.
Well, cool. What was maybe one of the questions? Do you remember?
Oh, goodness. Who directed Swamp Thing, and what was the main antagonist's name?
Wasn't it like early John Cameron?
No, Wes Craven.
Wes Craven?
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know who the main antagonist is.
It's something Arcane. I could only remember Arcane from when I was a kid and saw it like a billion times on like HBO or Showtime or Spotlight or whatever. So, speaking of things that are hard to define and all over the place, we're talking about two things that are kind of hard to define and all over the place. We've got ITHAQUA, and we've got Kadath, unknown Kadath. So,
Kadath, ITHAQUA Kadath,
yep.
Agent of the Outer Gods.
Yes. So, yeah. Do you want to hop into it, or is there anything fun and exciting going on in Oleander this week?
So I will say that ITHAQUA is one of the coolest things I think that August Derleth created.
Yeah.
I think it's an awesome outer god.
Yeah.
And so did Derleth. In fact, he writes his original story 3 times.
Oh, wow.
There's 3 different versions that he published of ITHAQUA, basically the original story.
Okay.
Which is based on
Algernon Blackwood?
Wendigo.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Or by, I think it is, I'm looking at my notes, but I can't believe it. I think it was Blackwood wrote Wendigo.
Yeah. That's exactly who wrote it. And can you describe ITHAQUA or ITHAQUA, if we're going to go with the its ancient Atlantean pronunciation? What if someone wanted to run a game or someone wanted to write it for a story, what would you recommend describing it as?
Well, so it's changed a little bit, especially in the last couple of decades. So it's this large, almost, you can see it, you can almost see through it, sort of humanoid feature.
Sure.
And originally, it had Native American features. Now it's sort of gone, it's almost more like, almost like a gray alien.
Okay.
And for obviously, just cultural niceness, but more than that, I think it is, we sort of see it. I like that kind of idea that, it's not exactly what we see. Our mind's trying to fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
And so, a 1920s, French Canadian woodsman is going to see this sort of Native American looking something, where, modern post X-Files, Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind, 21st century person is going to see sort of something alien out of it.
Yeah. I mean, I've personally described ITHAQUA as a upright humanoid that it cuts through the darkness. It's just this pale figure that cuts through the darkness, cuts through all the snow, and you see its paleness in juxtaposition up against, black pine trees way off in the distance. You see it moving through, and it's this bright, pale thing, and its shoulders are much higher than any humanoid's shoulders even should be. Like it's like this massive thing that's moving through the woods that you can see push trees around or something. Or, it's like maybe you can't see all of its shape at once, but it's something big and white, something that really contrasts with the darkness of the woods. And that or it's like a physical manifestation of a snowstorm, but like, how like when you stare at a TV back in the old days and it would be static and you could swear you could sometimes see shapes in that snow? It's kind of like that. It's like you're looking at like just snow falling down, and the way that the snow blizzards are going, it looks like it's something big. And then you realize once it gets closer that it is really something. And those are ways that I've found it interesting to describe, like ITHAQUA manifesting into our material world.
Yes, and so ITHAQUA, of course, is created by August Derleth.
Yeah.
But it's really sort of defined, I think, by Brian Lumley.
Yes, yeah. I think Brian Lumley and Robert M. Price really went out of their way to define ITHAQUA.
Yes, and with Price, and I have to admit, the first real sort of collection, Chaosium collection of short stories I got was the ITHAQUA side.
Yeah, you said that the other day.
And so I love Price's forward. And I think that's sort of how we kind of now, he's kind of got this sort of alien, sort of foggy alien look. Because Price, he says, this is the 1920s equivalent to the alien abduction syndrome.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know, so they would find this, and again, spoilers, 90-year-old story, but they would find this camp where this person has been dragged off.
Yeah.
But if they see, he's been dragged and there's blood in the shoe footprints where his shoes have been rubbed off.
Yeah. And
it gets farther and farther, and like he's being lifted up in the air and sort of bounced until he's lifted up in the air. And I think that is that's one of the sort of interesting things that I think Lumley kind of added.
Yeah.
Why does he do this? And Lumley, he's lonely.
Yeah.
ITHAQUA is lonely. And of course, for a game or a short story, it makes a really good targeted, they're going to hunt this person down. Well, you're going to cast a spell on them to make ITHAQUA drag them away.
Yeah.
And so this I think there's this alien sort of, because ITHAQUA is alien, but he's captured on the Earth. because Derleth and Lumley fully buy into this war in heaven.
Yeah.
And, and the elder gods. And it's fine for what they are. But then, so ITHAQUA's got kind of this supernatural ankle bracelet. I don't know. I mean, not really.
Yeah.
So he, unlike Cthulhu, he can travel the Earth. He can even travel, I think, to Borea, his home
I was going to say he can travel back and forth to his home planet and try and take things with him.
But he's still limited what he can do.
Yeah, no, he has that kind of ankle bracelet that he's allowed to go to and from work, but that's it.
Pretty much.
Cthulhu can't even leave his yard, but ITHAQUA didn't do anything bad enough that he can go back and forth to work, as long as he doesn't, go hang out at the bar or anything between ways.
Now, as we said, it's based on Blackwood's Wendigo, but there's even an older story that's kind of related.
Okay.
And by our good friend, Ambrose Bierce.
Oh.
So Ambrose Bierce wrote a story, and I'm looking for the title. And he wrote this, though, as if it was a newspaper article.
Yes.
And which this boy goes out to get water, and he all of a sudden he hears people crying for him. They can't find the bucket, but he's in the air somewhere, and they can hear his voice, and he gets carried away. And so Ambrose Bierce wrote this as if it were a Christmas story.
Yeah.
And I feel that this is also one of the earliest urban legends of the story of Oliver Lurch, the boy who fell up, which is the same thing that was supposed to be in Ohio, where this boy on Christmas goes out to get water in the 1890s from the well, and he's screaming. They can't find him, and then they hear his voice as he's flying up the sky. Says, "I see you, I see you." Yeah. Completely urban legend. Oh, sure. It's appeared in a lot of different books and stuff, but there's no contemporary story of it happening at that time. It's definitely an urban legend, and it's possible that this urban legend might have influenced Derleth. Yeah. But if it did, I don't know of him writing it down and saying that.
But yeah, it has a feeling of otherness, and if you read a lot of mythos stories and turn of the century, I don't know, folk horror and stuff like that, it has that kind of feel to it. It's definitely not supposed to be a mythos story, but it can be, like other stuff that our good friend, not August Derleth, but Ambrose Bierce, in the past has done, and in the past, stuff has been taken as like, hey, this would fit perfect into the mythos, even though it is not mythos. Because the mythos didn't exist yet. Not until Lovecraft died, and Derleth went, well, let's call this thing the mythos, and let's everyone use it.
Exactly. And ITHAQUA is often used because, Derleth is looking for an air element. Yeah. And okay. But the other thing is, I've been in snowstorms. I haven't been in really, really bad ones. I've been in some minor ones. Yeah. Nature is a monster.
Yeah, and Derleth is telling everyone, write what you know. He's writing what he knows. Northern Wisconsin in the wintertime is insane, and people go nuts. There's a book called Wisconsin Death Trip that I highly recommend anyone try and track down. You'll get an idea of where these stories of like pioneers and even late 1800s, early 20th century, before electricity was and telecommunications and everything were a thing. people just used to be so isolated out there and have nothing to do and be more or less stuck indoors and get cabin fever, and then worse things happen. And people running out into the woods and disappearing is the least of your problems. People running out of food and feasting on each other, I mean, that's something else. But yeah, it's just even like pioneer stories of like stuff that happened in the hills and in the in the wilds of Wisconsin and Canada and Minnesota, like the Midwest and like up north. It's like stories from the Yukon that you'd hear. Like you'd hear these grisly stories that I'm not gonna go into, but you could find stuff like that about like man's inhumanity to man out in the wilderness and wilderness survival. And if you just put even a slight bit of sinisterness, outer worldliness, you've got something like Wendigos and ITHAQUA and who knows what else. Oh man, Rantigoth? No, is that who I'm thinking of? Who way up north, and his remains were found, and then he was put into a museum. It's not. I want to say it's Rantigoth, but I could be wrong.
I'm not sure, but I know what you're talking about. And Derleth also. I don't know how much Lovecraft I think did this as a joke.
Yeah.
But Derleth really did sort of buy into this family tree of the old ones.
Yeah.
So he has ITHAQUA being the child of Shub-Niggurath and Hastur.
Okay. All right. Huh. Interesting. I don't know how that works, but okay.
Derleth. And the words of the robot in Solo. Oh, it works.
Yeah. ITHAQUA. Crazy stuff. Yeah. How many stories do you think there are out there, like major stories that have been produced about ITHAQUA?
So there's at least, like I said, and I was trying to, 3 that Derleth basically retelling the same story.
Yeah.
If you're going to count,
Wendigo?
Blackwoods, Wendigo, and then you've got showing up a couple times in the Titus Crow.
Oh yeah.
Sorry. And then at least another 8 or so in the ITHAQUA cycle.
Yeah. So we're not lacking stories. It's not like some great old ones where it's like we don't have any resources to look things up. But yeah, that's kind of nice about ITHAQUA, that there is stuff, and also there's quite a bit in the RPG, the role-playing games.
So there's a whole lot, I think.
Yeah.
I think there's a whole lot of stories that are, stories, but not short stories, but adventures in Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah. I was going to say I know there's several adventures and also several books that have come out through the years that kind of expand upon ITHAQUA, other than just like, oh yeah, he's a nice giant guy. or it's like, I don't think any of them say Native American looking guy who looks like a frozen corpse. But
kinda.
Yeah, but I don't think I've really seen that as of late. But
yeah, it's gone more, I think, and I think it's meant as respect.
Oh, sure.
To Native American tribes.
Certainly.
But it also, I like the alienness of the appearance of what people see when they think they see it.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty cool thing about it, and you can do a lot with that in the future. Like, speaking about in the future, what are they gonna see? It's I don't know, what in future games, what would people be like, having fears of in 2277 or something like that?
Well, and what is, I think ITHAQUA is ripe for games, for short stories with global warming.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's a lot of potential. And the same thing is, we know it's a interplanetary. We know he comes from I believe it's Boris, or so, and space is cold.
Yeah, that's true. ITHAQUA, how we know thee, so little, yet so much.
Yes.
So what are we doing for an interview this week, Dave?
So we don't have an interview this week, but I'm going to talk a little bit about some of my favorite role-playing games.
Oh, cool.
And how they, the games that are based on the 2D20 system from Modiphius, where we've got everything from some of my favorite books to an obscure Scandinavian role-playing game, to a European, basically tabletop combat game that was converted into a role-playing game, to some major video games.
Oh, cool. That's going to be fun. And then after that, Dave and I will be talking about Unknown Kadath and where to find it. It's pretty easy.
And known Kadath too.
Yeah, and known Kadath. All right.
This is Dave's Corner of the Podcast. It is awesome and it's gonna go fast. It's not the interview part. It's not the part where DB talks forever. It's Dave's Corner of the
Hey everybody, this is David, and this is where I talk to you alone, or I would say alone, but you may have heard my friends, the little baby goats. And, well, that's just part of life when you do most of your recording on a working farm. And they think that it's dinner time when they've still got another hour and a half before dinner time. If you ask the baby goats, they're going to say they've never been fed, but so you may hear Ralph the rooster or the goats, but hey, this is the time that you and me just sort of, you the audience and me the talker, just sort of spend some time without guests. It's kind of our time, and I'm looking forward to it, where we can just talk about whatever I want with a bunch of baby goats in the background. And today we're going to be talking about role-playing games, specifically Modiphius's 2D20 system. I think there's about 8 or 9 titles out, and we're just going to briefly sort of discuss the system. It's not really going to be a mechanics discussion, but then we're going to go into the different settings, and that's where I think Modiphius really, really shines. Now, neither DB nor I, nor any of the goats that I'm aware of, are in any way associated with Modiphius other than the amount of money I've spent on their products, and that I'm a huge fan. But so this isn't a paid endorsement. This is what I honestly believe. The 2D system, 2D20 system, and it's going to cover a whole bunch of different games. Everything from Dune, Fallout, Conan, to Mutant Chronicles. And pretty much have a copy of all the games. I have not necessarily played in all the settings. So the idea is you roll 2d20s. You want low, and that you get basically based on the skills and your attributes, you add them together. And if, depending on the type of game, if you get it below a certain number, then you get bonus successes. So you may be required to get like 3 successes and you're rolling only 2 dice. Well, you could, for lack of a better word, get a critical success, gives you an extra, or you can spend momentum or basically positive points to get extra dices or successes. So it works. And at the same point, it really is a story building system in the fact that when you do these incredible things, you're also building up sort of karma, this doom or whatever it's called, particular game. It's called different games for the game master to do some things. And maybe we'll do something on this mechanics, but really want to talk about the settings. One sort of mechanic flavored thing I want to address it in this particular session is that there is this wide variation in the rules. Even though they're all the 2d20 system, the exact same character traits and attributes and skills and how they're set up is not the same game to game. So if you're playing, you can't just take your Conan character and bring it into Starfleet. I don't see 2d20 an attempt to be a generic, general purpose, all-inclusive, game for all settings. There is some big differences that exclude it. I mean, if you wanted to, you could sit down and work it out, sure. And depending on the game setting, the rules are either really crunchy or crunchy light. The more crunchy they are, it means, the more math, more focus on rules, numbers, tables. Crunchy light focuses on storytelling and role-playing. That said, if you have learned, mastered, and played a 2d20 game, and you switch to another one, you're way ahead of the learning curve. 75% of the rules. And that there's going to be some changes. Obviously there's no warp speed rules for Conan. But there'll also be some area-specific, setting-specific rules that may not exist. Traits and how you get these, critical successes are going to vary. But if you know one, you're 75% set up for the next one without having looked at a book. Many of these games will have life path settings. Some of them will be sort of simplified. You just put in what you want. Others, the more crunchy ones, you'll be rolling a random thing. And character creation is a blast for these games. I really like them. The crunchy ones, even more. I mean, character creation. I like crunchy character creation, yet smooth playing. So you cannot, and I've tried. I've made, just for fun, like close to 40 Conan characters, and you can't make a bad one. You can't make a bad one. Same thing with Star Trek, Infinity, or also Mutant Chronicles. Other games, it's sort of more of a little plug and play, but it's fun to make characters. This is if you're a character creator type person, and I do that to calm down from a really rough day as I make characters. Great. I've even read a review about the Star Trek version where the guy didn't like the game, but he says, gotta admit, it was a lot of fun to make these characters. So let me go ahead and break down the different games in the 2D20 roster. The first, and the one that I came across first, was Mutant Chronicles. And I had always been a big Mutant Chronicles fan. My friend and his friends and I in the 90s and the early aughts, we played it quite a bit in California. The original game, which I believe is from Target Game, in was Scandinavian translated into English. So it had this very sort of European worldview.
And it's basically diesel pump space opera where the Earth is destroyed, but all the other planets and asteroids are terraformed, and you're part of different companies that are fighting each other, but they're also fighting these alien demons. And if you actually fought the alien demons, they were pretty deadly. So most of our campaigns were like dealt with gang busting or corporate espionage. But I had one sort of kind of complaint about the original game, and that was character creation. It was fun and stuff, but you had a wild fluctuation in how powerful your characters started. So there was 5 of us, and we were rolling up 5 characters and a game master, and we were rolling up for this new campaign. And the first guy rolls, and he makes this military Bauhaus character. Bauhaus is kind of the German, Western European company. And he rolls so good. Now, he ends up literally being the leader of their army. You know, the Grand Marshal. Really powerful, really rich. Had a lot of military skills. Just amazing character. My next friend, he goes up and rolls up, and he goes through the Japanese-based corporation, and he rolls up, and he gets a lot of like power in the corporation, but he has like abilities that he gets to teleport through walls, and magical pistols and armor. And then I roll a character which was a Brotherhood, which is kind of their priestly magic users. And I did an undercover cop version. And I rolled a decent character. It was right about where you would think the average character starting out was. In fact, the Game Master tried to get me to roll it again and roll another, make a more powerful character. And I liked this one, so I kept that one. But then my next friend came, and he rolled a character, and he got basically a military character for Capital, which was kind of the American way company. And he ended up going to jail and becoming a Freedom Marine. So he became really strong and a really good shot. But that was it. Other than that, he was just a one-trick pony. And then our final player, he rolled up his character, and he wanted to go kind of criminal. He wanted to be like a criminal character, and with Imperial, which is kind of the English-based corporation. And it started out good. He got the clan he wanted, and then it's terrible. He was way below skills, attributes. To his players' credit and the Game Master's credit, it worked. He was able to work them in, but it was always he was always going to be the weakest link in this group, no matter what. So with this new system, you don't have that. Yes, you do roll some things, so there can be some variation, but it's not going to be this huge difference where the players have, literally a 4-star general and a guy who knows almost nothing because he spent his entire adult life in jail. So for you who only know Mutant Chronicles as the Casper Van Dien movie, and I've got 2 of my favorite actors, Ron Perlman and Devin Aoki, so it's worth watching that movie just for the 2 of them. It's a great setting. Now, Modiphius has pretty much covered all the original source books and materials, and now the only thing I've seen them put out recently are adventures. But especially if it's something you want to maybe get everything and start. Now, you do not need all of the extra books for this or any other of the 2D20 title. In fact, since some of these are so new, all there is the basic book. So you really, all you need to have fun is the basic book. The others, though, are icing on the cake. So yeah, if you want them, and the fact that you can get them not only as hard copies but PDFs, and maybe a little bit cheaper. So all you need is the basic book to play any of these games. The next is Infinity. And Infinity is based on a combat tabletop board game with miniatures, but it did have this huge universe. Again, it's probably one of the more crunchies. It's a very cyberpunk, anime, space opera. And if any of that sounds interesting to you, there's this galactic war going on. But again, a lot of this, just like Mutant Chronicles, a lot of the storytelling is going to focus on the home front. Not necessarily the war, but maybe smugglers or corporations that are taking advantage, or criminal organizations that are taking advantage of people during the war. Great character creation, great anime feel. Really do like this game. Next is Conan, which I think is Conan and Adventures in the Hyborian Age. And any of these books you read, the people who do this is a labor of love. But especially this. So, and you guys know me, I'm a huge Bobby Howard fan. I have 2 Christmases each year. I have regular Christmas, and then I have Robert E. Howard Christmas each year. I've been on several Howard and Conan panels at different Comic-Cons, working on some pretty big and exciting Robert E. Howard panels coming up for later this year. So if you are a Robert E. Howard fan and have no desire to play a role-playing game, get this book. Get this book because it's worth it, just how much they've deep dived into the different countries and civilizations. It's amazingly researched, and it's a great game. It's not just sort of D&D with Conan flavoring. There's been, I think, 4 or 5 Conan games out. Mongoose, there was another one, GURPS. There was D&D coming out. None of them, with the exception of maybe GURPS, Conan, come close to capture the feeling and the writing and the passion that Robert E. Howard had for this character and this world. So it's not just D&D. It is a very specific flavored. And, I'm not knocking 5e, but if you want less Gygax and more Robert E. Howard, this is the way to go. Not that I'm dissing you, Gary. Then I want to go with sort of the Star Trek. And yeah, this is going to be their cash cow, and of course it is. Now, again, just like Conan, there's been, FOSSA was the original, and I think that was like the first FOSSA Star Trek, I think, was the first role-playing game I ever played based on an existing property. And Black Unicorn put out a Star Trek game, and then there was Prime Directive, and then there was GURPS Prime Directive. So what the Modifius Star Trek Adventures game has that the others don't is that there's 4 ongoing Star Trek series, if you count like Lower Decks. None of the other ones have touched this. They've got all of these things that they can share and open up that the others just didn't exist. In fact, I recently got their Discovery, and that has made me, just reading that book, has made me want to get, Paramount Plus and watch the existing Star Trek much more than any of the TV commercials for Paramount Plus. So, it's the closest thing we have to a living universe for Star Trek, and it's their big one, of course it is, and it's their growing one. So even if you're not a Trekkie, there's some advantages to this, because you got basically that ship cooperation, and whether any game, you can do that in Infinity, you could do it in Mutant Chronicles, but it really sort of, definitely there's different Star Wars games, where the different people, though, are doing different parts of the ship, and you're in a battle or whatever, and, you got your helm, and your weapons, and your captain, And when that gels, that's just some of the best role-playing out there. But then you've got your away teams. And you've set up so that maybe you've got playing an away team character. Well, you can use sort of a temporary character on the ship while your primary character is the away team. And they've got a complete book on playing Klingons. So this is, I think, going to be their most supported game because, Star Trek's big again. I would say Star Trek is the medium crunchy game. And if all things else considered, if you're looking for just a game rules system that's not too light, not too heavy, that is probably a good place to start. All of these ones that I've discussed so far, Mutant Chronicles, Conan, Star Trek, and Infinity, have online character creators who will walk you right through, which is probably good because they're probably the most crunchy games, with the caveat that all the different expansions for Infinity has not been added on. I don't know, I haven't looked recently, just within the last 30 days or so, Discovery and Shackleford Space has come out, so I'm not sure if the new races and options that came out in those books are in the character generators. And in any of those games, you cannot create a bad character. Yeah, it may not be the character you want, may not do the things you want, but if you put it on random, it pretty much guarantee is going to get you a good character. Now, the other games, best of my knowledge, don't have official character creators. They've got fillable PDF forms, but they're a lot less crunchy, so they may not be needed. And that's the way the industry's going. It's going, much more role-playing. And so I'm going to cover what I know about Dishonored. I bought the book. It's on a video game. It's steampunk-ish. That's all I know. I read the book a little bit. I've never played the video game. I know of it. I'm going to have to find someone to run it. That's really about all I know about Dishonored. One of the new ones, though, that they're very excited to get as a property would be Dune. And, I've loved Frank Herbert's book since, I read it as a freshman in high school the first time. Great potential. And narrative style, so it's less crunchy, more flowing. It goes well with the book. And I'm excited. I haven't run a Dune campaign, but where you can also kind of make not only your own house as well as your own characters. And so I'm really excited about playing Dune. At this time, I think they're about to release the Atreides book, but other than that, it's just the main book. One thing also you got to say about Modiphius, their art is amazing. They're just beautiful, beautiful art in everything they do. And the art is always respectful of the source material and conducive to the source material. Another one I have, but I haven't played, but I'm really excited. Maybe probably want to run as a character before a player, but that is Fallout. And Fallout, is this huge video game, which was kind of based on role-playing games. In fact, the story I heard was originally there was going to be a GURPS version that came out with the video game, but it just fell through between the game makers and Steve Jackson. But I am excited about playing Fallout. The game that is probably most smooth and rules light is John Carter of Mars. Again, I've always loved the Edgar Rice Burroughs stories. And so this is, like I said, the most sort of, I think, role-playing heavy, despite its adventure and exciting, but it's the most rules light to kind of capture that, pulp adventure style of Burroughs. One that's not completely out, they've just got sort of a play testing out, is based on the role-playing game Mothership, which is a science fiction kind of alien, maybe Firefly-ish. I've heard good things. I've never actually played the original game, but Modiphius is very good about taking something and converting it to a customized version of their own system. So I'm really excited about that when it comes in. The other is Achtung Cthulhu. And Achtung Cthulhu is World War II setting for Cthulhu, the Cthulhu mythos, in which it started out as part of the basic RPG or Chaosium, and then I think it went to Fate, maybe a couple of other systems. To be honest, the original version I wasn't that impressed with. First of all, the art was beautiful. The quality was incredible. But honestly, I thought you might do a little bit better just converting, if you knew history, converting Pulp Cthulhu over, or use Cubicle 7's World War Cthulhu. However, about 2 weeks ago, I got the 2D20 version, and I'm loving it. The character creation's good. It gives you some different types of characters, so you could have enough military skills, but still be a face type character or a scientist character. It is a heavy pulp game, and it converts very well to the version of 2D20 that they adapted for it. So if you want, it gets a lot of comparisons, and I agree, to Hellboy. So if you want kind of that, all out full adventure pulp Hellboy style, this is probably the best game for it. And like I said, I think the pulp version, it's better as 2D20 than I think the D100 version of the Chaosium. Now they've got a new one. I've just seen the ads coming up, and it's going to be Cohor Cthulhu, which is basically the Roman legions against Cthulhu mythos, and I imagine all sorts of things are going to be thrown at him in the Tannenbaum forest. Again, I don't know very much about it, other than it will also be supported with a tabletop game, and I've just found the ads for it, or the original advertisement for it today, so I'm not even sure if there's any set release dates. But they're pretty good about getting things out pretty quickly. So if any of those settings seem to interest you, then I would definitely give Modicius's 2D20 systems a look. Like I said, you can start with just the main book. It's going to run you, depending on the book, probably about $35 to $55. Now they've got fancy, smancy ones, but you know what? I'm going to be fingering through this and just going through it, so I just get the regular book, I think. Also, if you're not sure, very good about supporting PDFs. So if you want to maybe just check something out, check out main book. Quite often there will be humble bundles or PDF sales where you can get them. And they're also very good about, if you order the book from them, they will give you the PDF, so you've got something to wait while you're waiting for it. So I would say go ahead and give Modicius's 2D20 a check, and I'm going to go ahead and feed some hungry goats. So this is Farmer Dave, and I'm returning back to DB and me.
Thank you once again for listening to People's Guide to the Cthulhu Mythos. You can help show your support by going to the show notes and following any of the links that'll tell you how to support the show and how to support our guests. And thank you to all of our guests who you can find in the show notes. Rate, review, subscribe, and remember, patrons get priority access to asking us questions, suggesting topics, even, submitting stuff. Actually, you don't have to be a patron to submit anything. That's how Dave got on the show, and that's how you can get on the show too. It's the People's Guide to the Cthulhu Mythos. Rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends. Thank you for listening. Back to the show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to People's Guide to the Cthulhu Mythos. I am your host, DB, and before we get rolling on too many things, I just have to give a shout out to our sponsor this episode, Copper Cow Coffee. I am not drinking Copper Cow right now because it is almost 6 o'clock in the evening and I want to sleep. I don't drink so much coffee that it doesn't affect me anymore. But yeah, I got a big
But
old.
if you had to drink a coffee at 6 o'clock in the evening, it would be Copper Cow.
Oh, definitely. I've got some cold brew brewing right now, so even if I wanted to, I couldn't drink it because it's still brewing. I mean, granted, I could make a simple to easy make cup of the coffee. You just pour off the little paper top. You pour in several ounces of water slowly, and you've got yourself the perfect Americano. Or
even a Luddite like me could make coffee that way.
Totally.
I am a totally unbiased random person in the crowd.
Thank you, random person named Dave. And check out Copper Cow Coffee. Show is in links in the show notes. There we go. Hello, everyone. It's D&D on D&D with me, D, and that other D over there. Hey, Dave.
Hi.
How's it going?
It is well.
Nice. So, I lately have been watching on YouTube these interesting. I'm trying to remember the name of the channel. It's something with history in it, and it's really kind of focusing on what did a Native American sailor shipwrecked himself in Japan on purpose and was there for 10 months, and this is what he said, and this is what he thought of it. This is everything that happened. Or Japanese sailor washes up here and learns the culture before it goes back home, and this is what his journal was about. Or communists come to Hollywood in 1936 and are appalled by what they see, and this is what their journals say, kind of thing. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, Kadath would be pretty interesting, like someone writing about Kadath. And I'm like, oh yeah, we already have that, kind of. Although, Randolph Carter didn't go too in-depth on what Kadath is. We just know that it's by the Plateau of Leng. It's like, it's further
We
up.
don't know where the Plateau of Leng is, though.
I know, but we know that the Plateau of Leng exists beyond the Mountains of Madness. And we know that unknown Kadath also exists beyond the Plateau of Leng. So, if we can find those mountains again, or if we can get to the Plateau of Leng, I'm sure the Vale of Panath, not the Vale of Panath, that's underground. I'm sure that the unknown Kadath would not be hard to find. And part of me is like, wait a minute, is unknown Kadath that Onyx Island? And it's like, no, that's not it. But unknown Kadath is, I don't know, it's one of those things that you can use in an RPG, and you can put it anywhere. If you're doing something with the Chocho people, or maybe you have to go find some Chochos and rough them up so that you can find out where the Plateau of Leng is. Or, that's could be why you're tracking down ITHAQUA under Mount Vormith to get yourself a foothold on how to get to the Plateau of Leng, so that you can then use that as a stepping stool to get to unknown Kadath.
So might maybe be a good thing for some of our listeners who maybe are not as familiar to give sort of, before we get into the multiple Kadath.
Oh, yeah.
The idea of Kadath it is a city where the gods of men live.
Yes.
And these gods of men are either the gods of the dreamlands, which is this subconscious, alternate, medieval reality in Lovecraftian.
Yeah.
Or the actual alien entities, the outer gods, the old ones.
Yeah. Yeah, and we have, I believe, somewhere online, there is like a listing of the great ones of Earth that inhabit Kadath, such as Hagrag Ryonis, Karakal, Tamash, Zokal, Okwarath, Lilith, and Nath Horanath. So, I mean...
And so you're going to get a lot of these, too, are going to be defined by the Chaosium role-playing game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because other than maybe a passing mention, you're not going to see Lilith in any of Lovecraft's writings.
No. Yeah, and it's outside of that, you're not going to see Lilith, and you're not going to really even hear of any of these great ones in general, except for maybe the Doom that came to Sarnath, the Dream Quest Unknown Kadath. I mean, just stuff that's in the dream cycle. You'll hear about stuff, but it's not like Lovecraft's talking about it in everything else or anything like that. I mean...
And there will be some writers in the 70s that'll place their stories there.
Of course, there will be. But no one really describes it. And I kind of feel that gives, since no one's really describing Kadath, that really gives people an opportunity to be like, well, is it like a barren desert plain? Is it like buildings made of marble on top of a mountain like Olympus? Is it, I don't know.
So my answer is yes.
Okay. All right.
So in fact, until very recently, I have almost always mispronounced the title of the story as The Dream Quest of the Unknown Kadath.
Yeah.
So that there are a bunch of Kadaths. There's the known Kadath, the unknown Kadath, the green Kadath, the blue Kadath, And to some part, we kind of see that because, is Kadath in space? Is Kadath in the Dreamlands? Is Kadath on Antarctica? So in this sort of, universe of quantum physics where things can have different existences, yeah, why not?
Yeah. And if Kadath... Kadath refers to a place, but it could also, I don't know, what if Kadath is referring to, like, an era that just doesn't exist anymore? Or, it's like you could have a period of time called Kadath. Like, people are just like, oh yeah, back in Kadath. It's like, humans aren't going to understand that. If we're talking about like some sort of alien time period when the outer gods ruled over things or something like that, and we call it unknown Kadath, it's like we don't know. Man, I feel like I'm not making sense to myself now, but
no, I think you are. And let me tell you what I sort of see Kadath is, and see if we're agreeing or disagreeing. So this is coming from a person who has a science degree, degree in social science. So I'm a historian. I'm not. But so to me, Kadath is like a different dimension.
Okay. All right.
And but at the same part, let's think of this as sort of an octopus dimension.
All right.
You got the head, but you got all these tentacles.
Sure.
And these tentacles occasionally show up or disappear in other dimensions.
Okay.
So you're flying your satellite, your Delta Green satellite over Burma, and there was, this big heat signature, and now it's gone. Sort of like Shangri-La.
Okay, I was going to say Brigadoon.
Brigadoon, exactly. Brigadoon is just Shangri-La with Irish accents and singing. But yeah, so Shangri-La, it's there and it's not. Well, Lovecraft kind of guessed wrong almost everything on the North Pole. When in Mountains of Madness.
Yeah.
But who's to say not in certain cases, at certain times? Yeah, that's right. And that's when the Kadath leaks in.
Yeah.
But places like the Dreamland, it's a little bit more solid.
Okay. Yeah. No. I feel like in stories about Shaunar Fawn or stories about ITHAQUA or anything that really has to like mention Plateau of Leng or any of that kind of stuff. Really, like even the Dreamlands, in some ways, I don't feel like there's multiple Dreamlands. I feel like there's us, there's the Dreamlands, and maybe some other sorts of quasi-planes here and there, whatever. And no. This is kind of like, kind of like how you were saying, like an octopus, but I'm thinking of it more of like a four-leaf clover that's all linked. It's just that sometimes the petals of the clover touch each other, but it's all separate places that kind of touch each other sometimes in weird places that aren't distinguished very well by human organs, sensory organs. So you have like this place that you have the Dreamlands, which is solidly in one place, and you have the Waking World, which is solidly in one place. But those two places do touch from time to time. And then if you have something that's even more, I don't know, less substantial, I don't want to say less substantial, but something that can kind of like move time and space, like a time and space that can move in time and space. It's basically what I'm thinking of as Unknown Kadath, Plateau of Leng, and all that kind of fun stuff. And I feel like you could use that kind of concept, like the whole, like maybe not just a place that disappears and comes back every however, or it's, you know, it's like it has a few known places where you can reach it, and generally it's in far, or what used to be thought of as far to reach places, but nowadays it's like, I don't know, maybe you're in a group of, I don't know, billionaire types who are looking to scale some super high mountain in Nepal, and you run across this cave. This cave leads underneath into some, I don't know, the Chocho spiritual world or something like that, which then leads you to the Plateau of Leng, or who knows, some sort of shortcut that ITHAQUA made to get back and forth to Borea real quick, and maybe, you know, get snacks along the way that he's not supposed to get because he's cutting through the Dreamlands or something. But yeah,
you know, and maybe so there is, you know, that you got to climb these huge mountains or go to the ice caves.
Yeah.
But maybe the outer gods have arranged things, you know, that, you know, the gate you've got to go through. There's a Myanmar military base.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or, you know, maybe they've arranged politics too. Or, you know, there's a. I love the first Tomb Raider movie, you know, where there's sort of, they have to go through this sort of stylish, you know, Angkor Wat.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's a lot of things that I think, and another idea is just Kadath at its most simple, as a place where humans and gods hang out.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the quest, to find it here in your D&D game, and then, you know, all of a sudden, like the you know, the town drunk is a warlock.
Yeah.
You know, and the town sheriff is a mind player. You know, just this town where the gods and the mortals hang out. I think that could be sort of a fun idea, especially if you made them work to get there.
Yeah. And like, things are popping into my head of, what if it's some sort of spiritual mezzanine, kind of like in between place? If everything that's going on in the known world happens like where we're able to see it, and everything that's the unknown is unseeable, what if there's this like, and I'm thinking of like theaters and stuff, like the mezzanine level that kind of looks out above the crowd, but it's like not quite real high up, super fancy, but it's just kind of like this. Anyway, but yeah, no, kind of an in-between place. Maybe like kind of like in spiritual matters, it's like, you know, you're not made of this type of material. You can't actually even approach this place that we actually hang out. Here's Kadath. Kadath can exist anywhere gods need to exist, but it's kind of like a step down for them to go there because it's like not quite their godly realm, but it's also not quite
almost like an airlock.
Yeah, but it's not quite the dream worlds or the waking worlds. It's just slightly beyond the wall of sleep, if we're gonna throw out another name.
Yeah, I like that area. There's something, and we see that. I think we could twist that D&D with the Fey realm.
Yeah. Or I was thinking, like, in D&D, it could be the kind of place where you could kill an avatar of a god, but not actually kill the god. It's like,
yeah.
It may be like the one place that you could kill the king in yellow, but that just means that Haster just comes up with another king in yellow that looks slightly different, but...
yeah, it's not the true form.
Yeah. But, yeah, I don't know. I think those are all pretty cool suggestions for what to do with Kadath. How do we solve a problem like Kadath?
Yeah, don't.
Yeah, don't. All right. Dave, is there anything else that you think that we should talk about Kadath before we head off into that Kadathy chilly night?
I just, my favorite Looney Tunes, Kadaffy Duck.
Kadaffy Duck, all right. That's, unknown to me, so.
That is the unknown Kadaffy.
All right. Everyone, thank you so much for listening to another episode of People's Guide to the Cthulhu Mythos. David Heath and I, we wish you well. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, pgttcm.com, and you can look for us anywhere on social media as pgttcm. It'll track us down eventually. And, write us. If you've got a book to review, let us know. And if you need to be interviewed for the show for some reason, contact us, and we'll contact you. So stay squiggly, keep it weird, and we will see you next time on People's Guide to the Cthulhu Mythos.
Or will we?
Ooh, bye.
Bye.
People's Guide to the Cthulhu Mythos is brought to you by a bunch of people. Check out the show notes, help the show keep us growing so we can go to cool conventions and high-five you there. And also check out the show notes and where to buy underwear. We don't sell underwear, we sell coffee and stuff like that. And music is by DB. And this center portion is always by Dave. Thank you, everyone.